The sound of metal handcuffs snapping shut echoed through the quiet grocery store aisle. A woman pushing a cart froze. A child stopped mid-step beside the cereal shelf. And the man in handcuffs looked straight at the sheriff and said calmly, "You might want to double-check what you're doing." The sheriff didn't even blink. "Save it," he said firmly. "You can explain everything at the station." The man didn't resist. He simply looked around the store, at the staring shoppers, the phones slowly rising to record, and the nervous store manager hovering near the checkout counter. Then he sighed, because he already knew how this would end. 20 minutes earlier, Marcus Bennett had walked into the grocery store hoping for nothing more than a quiet evening. No uniform, no patrol car, just a hoodie, jeans, and a shopping list. Marcus was an off-duty police officer who had spent the last 12 hours working a difficult shift. All he wanted was milk, bread, and a frozen pizza before heading home. But halfway down aisle 4, something strange happened. 2 sheriff deputies entered the store. They moved with purpose, scanning faces. Then one of them pointed. "That's him." Marcus didn't even realize they were talking about him until the sheriff stepped directly in front of his cart. "Sir, step away from the cart." Marcus blinked in confusion. "Is there a problem?" "Hands where I can see them." Now the entire aisle had gone silent. Marcus slowly raised his hands. "I think there's been a mistake," he said calmly. The sheriff shook his head. "We received a report about a suspect matching your description." Marcus nodded slowly. "Okay, what's the report?" The sheriff didn't answer. Instead, he pulled out a pair of handcuffs. The metal clicked open, and several shoppers gasped. Marcus could already feel dozens of eyes watching. Someone whispered, "Is he being arrested?" Another phone camera lifted into the air. Marcus lowered his voice. "Officer, you might want to hear me out." But the sheriff was already stepping behind him. "You can explain later." Click. The cuffs snapped shut. And just like that, an off-duty police officer was standing in the middle of a grocery store, handcuffed like a criminal. A woman near the fruit section shook her head. "This doesn't look right." Marcus looked over his shoulder. "You're making a mistake." The sheriff tightened his grip. "Sir, I suggest you stay quiet." Marcus paused. Then he spoke one sentence that made the nearest deputy hesitate. "Check my back pocket." The deputy frowned. "What?" "My wallet. Back pocket." The sheriff looked irritated. "We'll search you later." Marcus shook his head slowly. "No, you're going to want to check now." The deputy exchanged a glance with the sheriff. Something about Marcus's calm confidence made the situation feel different. The deputy reached into Marcus's back pocket. He pulled out a wallet, flipped it open, and suddenly stopped moving. His eyes widened. For a moment, he didn't say anything. The sheriff noticed. "What is it?" The deputy slowly turned the wallet around. Inside was a badge, and beneath it an identification card. The words were impossible to ignore. City Police Department. The entire aisle went quiet. The sheriff stared. "That can't be right." Marcus finally turned his head slightly. "Officer Marcus Bennett, Narcotics Division." The deputy's voice dropped. "Sheriff, he's legit." A wave of murmurs spread through the store. Someone whispered, "They arrested a cop." Another shopper muttered, "Wow." The sheriff suddenly looked much less confident. He stepped closer to the badge, studying it. Then he looked at Marcus. "You're telling me you're a police officer?" Marcus exhaled slowly. "I've been trying to tell you." The sheriff cleared his throat. "Why didn't you say something earlier?" Marcus gave a small, tired smile. "I did." For a moment, nobody spoke. The sheriff finally unlocked the handcuffs. Click. The metal fell away. Marcus rubbed his wrists. Around them, phones were still recording. The sheriff looked uncomfortable now. "This appears to be a misunderstanding." Marcus nodded calmly. "It happens." But the crowd wasn't so quiet anymore. A man near the registers said loudly, "You arrested the wrong guy." The sheriff avoided eye contact. Marcus picked up his grocery basket. Milk, bread, frozen pizza. Exactly what he came for. Before walking away, he paused beside the sheriff, then said quietly, "Next time, maybe ask a few questions first." The sheriff didn't answer. Marcus walked toward the checkout line, and behind him, the grocery store buzzed with whispers about the moment everyone had just witnessed. Because sometimes the biggest twist in a story is discovering the person in handcuffs was the one wearing the badge all along.